Hello there, welcome back. Now, Yorkshire County Cricket Club, have you heard about this story? It's in the hot seat at the moment, to put it mildly. This is following allegations of racism from a former player, Azeem Rafiq. In the last half an hour, there has been a development on this story. The club has been suspended from hosting international or major matches by the England and Wales Cricket Board. They say that until it is clearly demonstrated that it can meet the standards expected of an international venue, then ECB member and first-class county sponsors, including Yorkshire Tea and Nike as well, by the way, have ended partnerships, and a senior MP has called for the board to resign. It was reported this week that a racist term about Rafiq's Pakistani heritage was regularly used towards him, but the club's investigation concluded it was, and I quote, friendly and good-natured banter. Yesterday, former teammate Gary Balance admitted using the racial slur, and the suggestion now is that the club is institutionally racist. Is it? I wonder. Samantha, your thoughts?
Right, so I think what's really sad about this story is that it arises out of something that's happened between two people who describe themselves as close friends and having had a very, very close relationship. Is it institutionally racist? The short answer is yes, because if the club was unable to determine that the use of the word in question, we all know what the word was, I think we've all seen it reported, they could not find that term was a racial slur and found it was friendly banter. I think that beggars belief. In the 21st century, that beggars belief. And that is where the accusation of institutional racism comes from, that their board was unable to conclude, unable to sort of take a step back and assess the situation, and came to a conclusion which effectively found that...
But I thought it was an independent... I thought that the board had done an investigation and then it was passed, as per their process, to an independent body for review.
I think an independent body did the review in terms of what happened, and then the board reached its own decision in terms of the nature of the slur used. Yeah,
because there was 43 allegations that were made. I think 7 of them were upheld.
Yeah.
One of the challenges...
I think in the investigation, yeah.
Yeah, one of the challenges that I've got with this is that we haven't seen this report. We don't really know the details of what these allegations were, which ones were upheld, which ones were not upheld. But despite that, and just with the headline words, we're in a situation now where we're having a conversation about whether or not this club is institutionally racist. And I just feel a little bit, and I'm sorry, because I'm supposed to be listening to your views and I'm over-talking with my own views, so I will shut up in a second, but I just feel a little bit anxious, I guess, that before we know all of the facts about everything, we're dashing in to say this is institutionally racist. Sponsors are immediately kind of pulling out and desperate to kind of distance themselves, which I understand to some extent. But I guess it's just almost like, and you're a barrister, your entire profession is about getting the facts, doing due process and reaching the outcome.
But also, I mean, yes, but also this is about the public forum, and members of the public and sponsors are at liberty to take a decision based upon what they've heard. And for my money, if it is the case, and at the moment the club hasn't come out and said that that's not true, if it is the case that the term we are all aware of was used and was used repeatedly, and that when a complaint was raised in respect to that term being used, that complaint, on the basis of what we have heard, has effectively been dismissed. That, with the club concluding that the term was used as part of friendly banter. In my view, I was about to say in my submission, in my view, that term cannot be friendly banter.
So if two best friends, and they're best friends, I assume that you like your best friend. I base that on my own experience. But if two best friends are... I'm not going to use the banter word. You're calling each other names because from what I've read, it was a little bit of a two-way exchange. It wasn't just one person using so-called slurs and the other one not. It was a two-way exchange that they both accepted at the time was in banter. Where then does that become? Actually, no, an external person can tell these two people, actually, no, that's not banter. This is now problematic because it's racist.
Well, I think there's an issue about language, and we don't know what was said to Mr. Balance what, in terms of his reference to him being told things that were also unacceptable. He's not told us what those things were. He could. We may find those down the line when Parliament is addressed on the issue. However, it's my view that that term cannot be friendly banter. I think there are certain lines which I think we cannot cross, and if to suggest, I think, that it could have been friendly banter, and/or that perhaps it was difficult for one party to know when it became unacceptable to continue speaking in that way, I think is to completely ignore the power structures that already exist in our society and in language, and which may have impacted upon Mr. Azeem Azeem Rafiq feeling like he could speak up and say when, whether the term was bothering him. We do have to hear more about the facts, but we've also got to think about the context. How many people are within the Yorkshire Cricket Club who might have been impacted, or who might also share racial heritage with the cricketer, who might also have that same response to that term being used about them? I think this is where the issue about nuance comes. We need to really drill down and really think about how that individual might have felt in that situation, instead of, I think, having a knee-jerk reaction and saying, this is not institutional racism, this was a conversation between friends, this is going out.
Your view, Jake?
Well, I have to say I'm itching with disagreement. This is probably a good thing for TV. But I think that, this is... I think we need to look at the context here. This is a term, don't forget, that Prince Harry, latterly reinvented as the Prince of Woke, used himself about one of his army colleagues when they were in combat. This is a term which has been used in friendly banter quite a lot over the years, and latterly it has become a hot button word, and I'm not trying to diminish the damage that it can cause in certain contexts. But look, I'm Jewish. I've received my share of racial slurs in many different contexts, and my share of racism. I was Orthodox Jewish growing up and received a lot of physical threats and violence and all the rest of it. And I feel that when somebody uses any kind of term like that, or makes a joke or whatever it is that's a bit kind of close to the line, I always look for their motivation. What's our relationship? What are they trying to say? Is it just the fact that they're using a word that's been banned or been prescribed, or people are trying to ban it or trying to give it this kind of taboo nature? Or is it that they have a malicious intent? And that's what I look for. And I think the other point I would like to make is that I think that there's a real danger when we start to take these isolated instances of people using words that aren't allowed, or even being racist, and ascribing it to an institutional, systematic, underlying problem, power structures and so forth, which critical race theory is fond. I think the problem with that is that we're beginning to persuade ourselves that we live in a country and in a society that is fundamentally based on racist principles. And once that's the case, then the only solution is to re-educate ourselves, to unthink everything that we think, unconscious bias and all that. And then we lose sight of the fact that this is the best place for minorities, including Jews, that exists in the world, in the best time for minorities that's ever existed. And we should be celebrating that and recognising that we live in a hugely tolerant society where people like me can walk down the street, if I was visibly Jewish, of an evening, without any real risk in most parts of the country. I think that for all of these reasons, I really worry about the way in which this is being spun as a case of systematic institutional racism, when to me it seems like nothing of the sort.
Vicky, I'm keen to get you in as well. What's your views?
Well, it's a difficult one, really. But I understand that the player in question is going to give some evidence where he's going to name loads of others, possibly some people from the board, who perhaps he felt, or at least that was a suggestion on the radio when I was listening to it earlier, that they were racially sort of against him, if you like. So it could indeed be that it's wider than just what this friend of his was saying. So we just don't know. I think we need to just wait and see. But to me, it seems, I'm a football fan, and of course there is racism there as well, and there are penalties, and indeed the odd sponsor goes. But what you need to do in each case is really deal with it quite quickly and effectively.
Yeah, it's gone on for a very long time.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have been done properly and dealt with properly.
Yeah.
And that's a failure, really, of well, whatever it is that they've been up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there
Which
anything...
they're paying for now.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would add as a latter caveat is that you're right. We don't know the facts of the case, and I'm sort of speculating on the response, the significance that it's taken on in the debate. But I haven't read the report any more than anybody else, and it could end up that it was a much more serious case than has been reported. In which case, I would.
But it could end up either. It could end up either way, and I guess this is the point that I'm making. It could be Yorkshire County Cricket Club could be, the most systemically racist club. I don't know,
it's just
and it could not be.
But between good friends who are still good friends.
But I don't think it's the isolated incident. From what I've heard, it is one of the isolated.
43 cases, was it? 43.
43 incidents, and then 7 upheld. But as far as I understand
it's not very many.
As far as I understand it, it is a wider issue than that one conversation or the one reference that we've heard. And you say 7 is not very many. I don't think... How can you say that? Who are you to determine that 7 is not very many?
Well,
in the context of this person's experience, which you have accepted, you don't yet have the full facts on.
Well,
so I think we need...
Nobody does. I mean, I think we need... Tell one way or the other. That's really the point.
We need to sit... Yeah, we do need to sit...
I think the difficulty is using it as a punching bag for advancing an agenda on one side of the argument or the other. I mean, I think, it's a mistake to sort of jump on the bandwagon and make this an issue of a sort of issue that becomes an emblem for the advancing of a woke agenda or the alternative. And I think that we, in a way, we have our philosophical disagreements, but we do need to wait and see what the facts of the case are.